Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
I'm Retro Ray from Countdown City Geekcast.
And from General Kenobi's bunker, it's your pal, General Kenobi.
And Colin is on mute.
There we go. I'm Colin from the Star Stuff Podcast. There we go.
There you go.
And this is where we talk all stuff Star Wars, of course. And today we have an awesome guest. You know him from The Mandalorian Season 1, The Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian Season 2, Mandalorian Season 3. He's none other than Paz Vizsla, but there's a lot of other stuff to his incredible life. I just want to read a little bit from his website that he owns along with two other people. The company's called Caveman Coffee. This is right off his bio. Tate Fletcher is a SAG award-winning actor and has recently appeared in Breaking Bad, Jurassic World, John Wick, The Equalizer, and many more. He is an accomplished MMA fighter and BJJ black belt. Tate's career also includes being a professional stuntman. He is a BJJ black belt and veteran MMA fighter. He owns a successful gym in Santa Fe, New Mexico that offers CrossFit and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu programs. He's also an investor in Nuevo Cerveza, Bloody Maria, and the successful chain of Concrete Cowboy bars in Texas. And of course, we love him because he is Paz Vizsla. So I'd like to introduce to everyone the great Tate Fletcher.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we want to talk about a lot of Star Wars stuff because, of course, you are Paz Vizsla and one of the most beloved properties in Star Wars. But
Absolutely.
you want to tell us a little bit about how you got the role of Paz Vizsla, how that all kind of came about in a nutshell?
Sure. You, Colin and David, you guys got to do better with your names. We got Retro Ray and General Kenobi. And you guys not like
Absolutely.
Madonna or Sting.
Yeah, I've got a boring last name. It's like
I don't think these are last names that they're using. Anyways, I first read for a role, and I didn't know it was Lucas. I didn't know what it was. I just went in and saw some of the usual suspects that go to those auditions where they need, like there's a lot of guys that look like me, right? Who are the big guys that can move and act and all that kind of stuff. And so, I see guys that I'd known a while, and I go into an audition, and it was for Alpha Trawler for the opening scene of Mando, which was dope. And I found out a couple days later, I guess, that I'd gotten that and was pretty stoked. And then I got another email about, Jon Favreau saw your audition and he'd like you to play this other part. And I thought, fuck, Favreau saw it. Dope. And that's like a Lucasfilms email. And I go, oh my God, what is this I'm doing? Because there's a lot of hush on it. Nobody really knew exactly what we were shooting. There was rumors that it was like a Boba Fett style character that was going to be in this new show, but we didn't have any idea what the show was or any of that stuff. And so I started going out to Legacy Effects, and they measuring me and building a suit for me custom.
So cool.
So I go, this is kind of a big deal, when they put that much into it. And you walk into their showroom and it's beautiful. The creature from Shape of Water is there in full size, and there's all the guys from Call of Duty and stuff coming out of the ceiling, as if they're breaking into the place on rappel lines, and there's a full setup of stormtroopers and Darth Vader coming down the ship's hallways, and all these people, all these artists are carving out maybe they're giant feet for dinosaurs on Jurassic World or something. You don't really know what they're up to. They have partials of all this dinosaurs and equipment and stuff going on. And it was really, really dope. So yeah, that's kind of how that began. You never know what you're showing up to, and I couldn't have contrived it, right? It's all just kind of fell into place. And as it was happening, I didn't know really where it was going. And I don't think anybody else did either, except probably John and Dave and a few other people at Disney.
Right.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned the Alpha Trawler. So you're the first human face we see in the entire series of The Mandalorian, and you had to learn Huttese. So what was that experience like, and how long did it take you to learn your lines in Huttese?
It was great. I got to work with a linguist out of Lucasfilms who had made this whole language, which was incredible. And I got to Zoom with him a few times beforehand and make sure that pronunciations and things were correct. And it was a natural fit for me. It was really an honor to be able to do, and yeah, to be the first human to speak Huttese and the first one to kind of get shown. And that whole scene was the opener for all of the Disney streaming channel that they played at Super Bowl halftime. Right? It was like It was a huge deal. Disney hadn't even had a thing out yet, and this was their kind of flagship. Was that first 90 seconds of Mando?
Yeah, Dave Filoni's very first live action directing, and I personally thought he knocked it out of the park. You knocked it out of the park.
It was incredible. It was a great. I mean, so proud to be a part of it. Yeah.
Now, were you a Star Wars fan going into this, or did you transition into being a Star Wars fan because of the different roles that you played?
Yeah, I didn't know that there were people that weren't Star Wars fans. Well, especially at the time when I was born. You know what I mean? I mean, when I was a little boy, Star Wars came out, and so and it was the biggest thing going in cinema. It'd be like you didn't see E.T. or something. It was kind of unheard of. Like,
yeah,
of course you did. You know what I mean?
You grew up in Michigan, right?
Yeah, yep. I saw it in Traverse City, Michigan, outside of Petoskey, Petoskey, Michigan, outside the theater there. Okay. And all I remember was being in the queue to go in and the red brick building and seeing this magnificent outer space, hyperspace. I mean, it was wild for a little. I was, 9 years old, watching it, and it was just incredible.
That's awesome.
And then the subsequent ones, as I aged and got more of an appreciation kind of for mythology and for what it was that I was seeing, it became more and more special. And the advent of Yoda was, it's a real living mythology that we get to look at in that way. And I think it's interesting now as I look back and see fans from different eras, depending on when you were born. Like when I was a kid, there was nobody that was fans of the Empire. And now we have all kinds of fans of the Empire,
right.
In real life and in cinema.
Very true.
That's true.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, what was it like? So you mentioned that you were the very first human to speak on the show, and that was the episode directed by Dave Filoni, and of course Jon Favreau was there show running.
Yep.
How was it like to work with that duo of Favreau and Filoni, and all the subsequent seasons that you've done?
It was amazing. I mean, the whole arc of those two together and how they balance off each other is pretty incredible. And the whole scene, the whole setup, whether it's the camera people, the grips, the directors, the producers. I mean, you're on the shoulders of giants here. It's like people that have carved this path, and especially like when I look at John, and he's a guy that saw Boba Fett when all the rest of us saw Boba Fett, and goes, you know what, I want, years later, and Dave too, I want to create a story based on this, and that's pretty phenomenal. That when people look at like, oh, I would love to be able to do X, Y, or Z. It's like these guys were just like you, and they did that. It's what I pay attention to that'll grow, and I like to remind people of that, because all this stuff, it seems so magnificent that it's out of reach. But my question is it? Is it out of reach, or is it that I just have to believe in what I love and continue doing what I love, and this thing can come about, whatever that is,
Yeah, that's a great analogy for our podcast. We thought of inviting you on, and you answered, and now you're here to talk to us. We thought you were out of reach. So now you're here.
Exactly. I'm easy to find.
Yeah, I was definitely shocked. Like I said, when I sent that message, I was kind of like, when you responded back to me as fast as you did, I was kind of like, no way, he responded back. I'm like,
I really, especially after the show came out, Ray, it's like I really wanted to connect with people, and I've been on, a bunch of different podcasts of, some guys, it's their first envoy into podcasting, but I like to walk that accessibility, just because I want to. I believe in that. I believe in that. If you walk the path, the path shows up around you. What's next, right? And it dovetails into the next thing, and it's never that one thing that you do, right? It's never, oh, I got this award, or I got on this show, or this, or it's like, everybody looks at the biggest thing you did and they go, God, this happened all of a sudden. And it's like, no, you just walk a path that you love long enough, and eventually, there's some amazing things that can occur. I'm not in charge of that. I'm not in charge of the outcomes. I'm in charge of the footsteps.
Yeah.
There you
The
go.
stepping stones leads to where you're going to go.
Right.
And if you follow the right path.
Well, and not even the right path is the one you love. You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you can follow the wrong path. It's somebody else's path. It says, well, you ought to have some more consistency in your life, or you ought to have something that, you know, is sustainable or something, because they look, you know, a lot of folks look at dreams and they've turned their back on dreams in some ways, right? Because
That's true.
I got to have a paycheck at the end of the week. I've got kids now, or all of the reasons, and there's great reasons to, but the downside of that is if I pay attention to the wrong things, I might grow myself a life that I'm not very into down the road.
Very
Oh,
true.
man, you know what?
So
yeah, that is
I
so
think that
true.
falling in love with what you do and doing that thing will grow, just like anything else will grow. I mean, you know, whether it's being a carpenter or whatever it is, that'll become the thing where you get the next elevation, the next elevation, the next elevation. But just, you know, make sure that you like the road you're on, because that's the scenery you're going to see for a long time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man.
Absolutely.
I love it.
That mindset.
So for costume wise, because I'm very interested in like the armor and everything. When you do like actually put on the armor, are you doing it by yourself, or are people helping you?
I couldn't even imagine doing it by myself. Yeah, Tamara and Don Dininger at Legacy help me every day. It's like having squires if you're a knight. Like you can't even see where all the parts go, let alone, you know. And so there's a team. It's a team effort for sure. And just as the whole thing is. I mean, the acting in a suit I'd never done before. To not have a face, have your helmet and different subtle turns of the head mean everything. I need to have feedback from you on how that reads, because I don't know how that reads, right?
Right.
And so there's a lot of interaction to make it all work for us. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any input on the costume design, or was it like, all right, here's your armor, like let's see you put on the suit?
The only input I had was articulation stuff,
okay,
to make sure that there was as much as that as we could have, you know.
Okay.
Under the conditions of the armor being what it is.
Okay.
So a question I have is, so you getting in the role, getting this character, did you picture or did you have any idea that you were going to have this much of an effect towards the end of the season finale and have the fan base love you the way they do watching what you did at the very end?
Well, you know, I didn't know where it was going to go, you know, from episode to episode, really, right? Yeah. It's like there's a large secret part of that. I mean, in the second season, all we see is a bunch of armor that's broken apart and everybody's dead, is what the assumption is.
Yeah.
And then Mando goes on alone, and then in Book of Boba Fett we come back and we go, now we are three, right?
Yeah.
And so you know, the armor and I have a very special relationship throughout that, as well as Din and myself, and that was you know, those are fantastic relationships, like Brendan and Lateef that carried the weight of Din, and Emily Swallow that played the armor. It was those arcs were tremendous, and to see those arcs as they played out was it was something really cool to see. By the time season 3 came, I knew, you know, the first day I was there, John was like, so this wraps up for you at the end of this, you know.
Oh, dang.
So there's a spoiler for me from day one.
Wow.
However, you know, it's also, who knows. I mean, everything is left. You know, it's a Star Wars universe.
Exactly.
As Filoni says, whoever dies in Star Wars.
Exactly.
But also a great arc of my character and the best death I've ever had. You know.
Yeah, dude. When I watched that, the only thing I could think of was what's like the sacrifice you did. You know what I mean? That, and then knowing you did it, knowing that your son had just gotten his helmet, and you know what I mean. So that scene was just phenomenal overall. The way you battled till you fell to your knees, that was just speechless.
It was tremendous. The choreography that JJ Dashnon and Natalie Padilla put together was phenomenal. Tom O'Connell's a stunt guy that helped me carry that scene. And it was just everybody came together and brought their highest good. It was supposed to wrap up on a Wednesday, was our last night of shooting, and we went to Thursday, and we just needed, to get things correct was the utmost importance for everybody. And so And I feel like we did that. I feel like it was really well
Absolutely.
put together and well received. And also, there's a lot of people that were, I mean, of course, very sad and torn up about it.
Yeah.
However, I think.
Oh yeah.
I think for what Paz was through it, you know, Heavy played a character that was kind of the emissary or the hand of Emily. Emily was kind of who held the structure for what our integrity was as Mandalorians.
Yeah.
And Heavy was just kind of the guy that made you toe the line. And so there was this, you know, this teaching arc or, you know, helping Din discover what it would be to be a Mandalorian, because he came in not, right? And so that's kind of the rub between he and I throughout it. And I think that scene, I don't know if it was the 5th episode in season 3 where we're in the cave and we're passing the hammer from one to the next.
Yeah.
Right.
And that kind of bringing it together and setting these old traditionalist ideas aside enough to say we need to meld with these new people, because just like everything else is true, just like America, just like any kind of great society, is if we let ourselves be divided, we're going to fall separately and die. And we need to be unified, and we need to see past each other's differences and have this allowance. And in that, when that turned things, I thought, I mean, it's just it gives me goosebumps. It's super powerful.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite days on set was that, you know, and then to the very end with you know, Paz saying goodbye, everybody, good luck, and I'm going to hold this down, was the part of it for me where it was like, here's the bigger lesson of like what it is to die for love of your people, for your values, for your integrity, and what is that showing, and is his death more important than if he lived,
right?
In that way, I think that's a real important thing, because here's this warrior class of folks that this is what it means, that I'm here to lay down my life for my brothers, sisters, and for this way of life that we have and that I hold dear.
Yeah.
So off of that, you know, during that last day, you know, you wrap up the epic scene, right? Was there, you know, a moment with the cast when they're like, oh man, like I can't believe that was it, right? That was the last time we're gonna shoot, you know, Paz Vizsla. You know, did you get, you know, a small memento? Did they tell you, hey, here you go, here's your giant gun, you get to take it home?
It was all of that, man. It was you know, tremendous accolades on set, and I think that we all felt it. We'd all gone through it together for the months previous, and it was a super special day in that way, and the takeaway from it was tremendous for me, and I think for everybody. It's like, you know, it's like I said, it's like everybody there is a Star Wars fan for a long time. This is one of the most epic things that somebody could have worked on. I mean, and so it was all that for everybody. I think it was heavy for everybody in that way. And there was precursors to it, right? There's everybody when we're in the corridor still, and Bo-Katan is cutting the circle in the back, and somebody says, Tate's not going to fit through that circle. Like there's this foreshadowing that nobody really knows about at the time, but that for sure is what's coming.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
So I was there in London when they actually showed that episode to the people that went to the panel, and I cannot stress this enough. Everyone was so emotional, and seeing of just watching that scene of you just having that last stand. I was looking around, and it was just incredible. And I love these experiences of seeing it with people, because then you like truly understand like how emotional the scene really is. And just seeing that with a crowd of people and seeing you do your thing was just incredible. And I've loved your character from the very beginning, because we've never seen we've seen a couple of Mandalorians through Star Wars, the Clone Wars and Rebels, but getting to the Mandalorian and even having a connection to one of the well-known Mandalorians throughout history was very, very cool. So just seeing you just kind of have your own take like on that legacy of the heritage for that character was incredible. And then just going all the way to the very end. So it was awesome.
I really appreciate that. It's it wasn't clear to, it's hard to see something when you're inside it.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I watched afterwards, somebody sent me a clip of people watching the finale, well, not the finale, but that seventh episode, and to see reactions. So it's just filming fan reactions of that. and it got heavier for me,
Yeah.
you know, in that way. It was really impactful for sure. And that arc, you know, and you know, that was the one thing people said, like, what was it like to do that and everything. I just knew how important Star Wars was to me and to others. And I knew to others it was even more important. I know there's people that are fanatics, right, in that way. And it's like anything else. When I get hired for a job, I want to be the best guy for that job. I want to make sure that the people that hired me are glad that I'm on the ride, right?
Right.
And this was like that times a million, because I knew all the different souls that were on it that needed that to be as powerful as it turned out to be. And so from the beginning, I knew that about that character, is that I wanted to walk with a strength to it that I wanted to carry it well, you know? So thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for giving it all, man. I mean, it definitely shows, and we've all here experienced it, and it was just incredible. Okay, it was definitely one of the highlights of the season, dare I say, of the entire show. It was just impressive, right? It was just perfect, and now we get to learn more about everything that went into it, right? The effort, the time, the choreography, you know, the long hours, all of that, and we just got to say, you know, it absolutely paid off, because it's definitely one of our favorite Star Wars anything, right? Not just Mandalorian, just anything out there Star Wars. It's amazing.
It was phenomenal. It was a real honor to be a part of it. I mean, for all those reasons, it was incredible.
Right.
So I have a friend of mine who's from the over in the UK, and he's an artist. He's drawn for Lucasfilms and stuff like that. And he did a piece. I don't know if you've seen it. I think Dave's gonna put it up.
The three of us?
It's the three of you, I think. It's the three of you, I think.
It was on your podcast before, right?
I don't think so. Did you put it up before, Dave?
Oh no, I didn't see this.
Yeah, so my buddy drew this. He works on Lucasfilms, and he's done artwork for them, sketch cards and stuff. His name is Chris Owens. So I didn't know if you ever seen this, but
no,
he drew this because of that episode.
God, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share it with you so you can see that you know, you are memorialized in art now. You're going to be, yeah.
That's the thing about this show too, right? Is that like the art, that's what I had no idea about Star Wars, is the artists that are out there. I had no idea, man. That I had no idea that there's that many talented people out in the world. Like, it's insane. When the first season came out and everybody's so quiet about it, that they're not going to release, you know, what Grogu looks like to any kind of toy company. They're not going to. There's too many people that would know. And so in that first year, and I get tagged in all these things of all these different people's representation of what that, because people wanted a Grogu doll, so they're making them out of denim, out of paper mache, out of velvet, I mean, you're seeing all these different representations that were just phenomenal before it became corporatized in a way. Right. And inside of that, I've just been in awe ever since then. I mean, every year I come up and, you know, I go to some of these cons and stuff, and you see the artists that are around, and it's bananas.
Yeah, it is definitely the one piece that we, you know, us Star Wars fans are looking forward to, and we can't wait till they make it, is your helmet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's some good folks at Valley Forge that are have made a helmet for me that they're sending off, I guess. But yeah, it's cool, man. It's a crazy thing to be a part of, to be right in the middle of.
Nice.
So for the stuff that you did in Book of Boba Fett, because I was always curious, when you actually got to hold the Darksaber, was it actually like, you know, like heavy? Was it weighted, or was that all just acting?
No, it's always like whenever there's an axe, sometimes a bat is functional depending on what you need to do with it, but like swords, all that stuff is you know, it's very light, and so it's all you know, you have to move in a way that is conducive to that. And Rich Citrone was the guy that he doubles Ben Affleck. I met him on The Accountant when we did that together. Yeah, and he did a lot of the sword stuff on that with the Darksaber on the with the fight with Din. But that's a whole skill set that is in that dance, but it's you're making it look real, because you know the downside of it is that somebody gets their arm crushed or something. You can't swing steel at people, and but yeah, that's how that is.
Very cool.
So the other question I had was, you know, people just don't know you from being on Star Wars. I mean, you've done John Wick, you've done Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. How was it working on all these awesome IPs?
I mean, it's a trip because I like I said, I didn't design it, right? I was trying to get a job, and until, you know, I don't know if it was last year or something, and somebody's looking at pictures at a Comic-Con, and they're like, God, this and that and this. They're like, you've really built a crazy career here. And I was like, it was the first time I looked at, I go, a career? Because I was just trying to get work, right? And then I go, God, this is, you know, and that's the thing, is like, you just pay attention to what you love doing, and you build a body of work. And it's been an honor and a privilege to be on every one of them. And yeah, it's been something else.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you were a professional MMA fighter, and of course you've been in all these huge franchises. Is it the same kind of butterflies maybe that you experience when you're about to perform, or is it different?
It's the same but different. It's
okay.
Working in the stunt world, where I started off first. I did the first movie I ever did was a Master P film called Lockdown, and that was dope. But it seemed unrealistic that I was going to work in films. So I was like, cool, I'm doing this wrestling thing that I like, and I compete all over the world. I'm just going to do that. I'm not going, you know, this guy that was the coordinator was like, dude, I've got a guest house. You could come out, and there's a lot of work. That I go, thanks a lot for the pipe dream, but I'm just going to stay what I'm doing here in Santa Fe and appreciate it. And it's 10 years later, I'm on The Equalizer, and I meet that guy again. And I go, you know who you are to me, man? Like, and we've been great friends since then. The difference is like, if you're in a fight, you can get knocked out for sure, but you kind of don't know the strike that knocks you out. You might not see coming, right? Most times you don't. But you know when you're going to walk out past this building and you're going to get hit by a car, right?
Yeah.
And that's a whole different kind of thing, right? And it's a whole different skill set to make that natural, to not lead it, all those things. And so I've really got the highest admiration for the stunt people in the business that are the least recognized. Like, you know, none of the awards show recognizes them, none of that. And it's a, you know, throwback to another time, but it's that they're exceptional athletes that are there that make it all happen. And yeah, so it's different in that way. It's different in the way that, like, a fight is, it can be a little more chaotic. I mean, it's not as chaotic as it looks. You're trying to do an exact techniques and things like that. The stakes are maybe higher because you're trying to not make contact, but make it look like you're making contact in film when you're in a fight scene or something like that. And so the skill level needs to be just as high or higher, but it's different outcomes and it's different purposes that we're looking towards. I guess that's the way I would say it.
So I got to ask this question because I'm old school,
right?
Retro, of course. By any chance, did the Fall Guy have anything for you to do with?
I wish that would have been a great that one, and I read for a part on Roadhouse, but I didn't get that.
Oh no, I mean, did it influence you watching it on TV as a kid?
Oh, way back in the day.
Yeah.
Because I thought you were talking about they just made a remake, right?
Yeah, because they're making a remake, but that original TV show. I mean, growing up as a kid, you know, us watching that show, I thought it was cool, you know, because you know you're following this stunt guy and his crew, and they're doing solving crimes, whatever. It was cool at the time, and of course now the reboot. But did seeing that show, did it kind of influence at all, or just you kind of
It didn't influence where I went. It was something that I watched all the time as a kid. Of course, I mean it's what was on. You know, there's 3 shows on TV, and so you and then that was cool, right? But you know, when I grew up, I didn't feel like there was possibility or hope for those kinds of things. You know, it's like I kind of grew up and it's all factory town and it's kind of all like that. And so I didn't know any guys that wrote books or that I didn't know anybody that was on TV. You know, it's like that stuff didn't seem exciting. Like I said, even after the first movie I was on, I was like, that seems so unrealistic to me just because I had these old ideas that kind of kept me tethered in a way. And now I was on another path. And so it was like that. I did think, you know, one of my homeboys, I was like, God, and he ended up dying, but I was like, he would have been a fantastic stuntman. And I remember thinking that, but then as it became more and more evident in my life, I was just like, you know, I mean, I got to believe in possibility by walking through the idea that it was possible. Like I mean, I didn't have that going in, like, this is going to be like, but I was like, man, I'm not the best guy at it, but I can do what I'm seeing here, and walking into that. And then I always had an attention to like a standard, and I wanted to do well. And so I think that, you know, coupled with a desire, it was like kind of natural for me. And by the time I got into the film business full on and really threw my hat into the ring, you know, I'd been a competition athlete for 10 years, and that had really changed my mindset in a huge way. And that's what needed changing. I needed a perspective shift to change the way I thought about possibility, right? Which I believe is available to anybody. But I believe that, you know, a person can remain tethered also by their own mind in that way. And fighting really took me out of that in a huge way.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I actually want to settle something once and for all, because I've seen a lot of articles.
Yeah, I know exactly what
written about your character, and we actually kind of had a not an argument, but a discussion on our podcast about this. So you've been in the suit for all the seasons of The Mandalorian, essentially, when you appeared. But Jon Favreau did the voice in season 1 and season 2. But I've seen articles say that you did the voice in season 3. Is that accurate?
Well, I would say I did the voice every time I ever had the suit on and there was a voice, because we're acting in scenes.
Right,
and
but
the only time that I knew that John did it was when we saw it at the premiere. And so that's when I didn't know until then that I'd been dubbed over.
Oh,
okay.
Oh.
And so that's how that worked for me anyway. And then I saw John downstairs and he's like, so how'd you like playing my body or whatever? And I was like, just glad to be at the party, you know? And then it, you know, people said that, they asked me too, of course, online. I don't know what happens in post-production. I don't have any fingers in that game. But I did notice too that the voice was altered again. And I, you know, have ideas about maybe why that was, but I sure don't know. That'd be a John question.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if it's my voice and mechanized, or if it's his voice and more mechanized, or what it is. I really don't know.
Okay.
That's crazy. So, got to ask about your Caveman coffee.
Okay.
How did that come across? How did that get?
Me and my girlfriend and my best friend were just always fans of coffee, and we started doing a lot of nutrition podcasts and stuff. You know, at my gym, we kind of started talking about nutrition and kind of people reaching towards higher health and healing themselves with their foods and being conscious about what they're eating and where they're sourced from and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of bled into our coffee. And you know, we met some guys that were brothers that were refugees from Colombia during the time when when Pablo Escobar was kidnapping people and all that stuff was going on. And so they came to America and they lived here and they had a roasting company. And so we started working with them, and then we started getting into the nitro cold brew coffees. And that was kind of our flagship for the brand. And we've been at it for like 10 years now as, kind of coffee nerds.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my wife
and
and
myself, Keith Jardine, a dude that I fought with out of Jackson's MMA, and then Lacey Mackey, who's she's the highest level trainer in the film business that there is, and producer in films as well.
Nice.
And so is the three of us, kind of in our passions and our youth and ambition, and oh yeah, we can do this too. And so we started with like a food, like a coffee truck. And then one of my friends at a gym called Brick started a gym in New York. And he says, can you guys put in a coffee shop in our, like a little stand in our gym? And we go, sure. And so we went up to New York and did that. We'd never done that before. We just say yes a lot. It's kind of like being in the film business or starting anything else. You know, you want to write a screenplay, you want to get this job, you want to learn this skill acquisition. You just throw your hat over the fence, and then you got to climb over the fence to get your hat and figure out how to get over it, you know? And that's kind of how that began anyway. Not the most directed way to do it, but that's how we did it.
No, but like you said, you did what you loved. You like coffee.
Yeah.
You're into this stuff. So, like you said, you did what you love, and
Yeah.
that's at the end of the day, that's what we all want to do.
Well,
Like I
that's the
said,
biggest thing is if you don't love it, you won't follow it, right? And so that becomes the thing. It's like a lot of people have ideas and all that, but if it's not really a passion in your heart to do the damn thing, the shine will wear off for sure. It's not like it stays shiny all the time. I mean, it's like a guy asked me one time, he goes, "What's your favorite pre-workout or whatever like that?" And I go, "I don't really understand. Like I drink coffee and I drink water, you know." And I go, "No, there's these things and there's ephedrine and there's this and that." And I go, if you gotta juice yourself up to go, you're already gonna adrenalize yourself. Like,
right.
Maybe you got to ask yourself different questions. Maybe you're asking the wrong question, you know?
yeah, if you need to drink that to get started working out, then
Right.
you're in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Right. Why do you want your heart rate elevated if you're going to go and elevate your heart? I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, you know, to each their own. God bless, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, like I said, David did this podcast. He created it. It's been going on for 5 years. I met David through Countdown to the Geekcast. Kenobi I met through Countdown to the Geekcast. Colin is my first time working with Colin on the Star Wars Stuff podcast.
Yep.
I've been in the comic world for the last 15 years. I love art, and that's why I know Chris. Yeah. When I go to conventions, I always go down Artist Alley because there's always up and coming artists that they just need that right push, or they need the right person to put them into the right spot. And a couple of artists I've worked with and stuff, but my thing is art. Like everything I have so much artwork, but getting to meet these guys have given us a platform to work together. Because like you said, we're doing what we love. Getting to interview people like you who are in the industry from stunt to actors, you know, it's awesome because you're doing what you love. We're doing what we love.
Yeah.
And people, like you said, you know, the stunt guys don't get enough credit. Without you guys, we wouldn't have the fight scenes. We wouldn't have
There'd be no trailers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys sacrifice your body to get these awesome scenes. I mean, if people and us people would know behind the scenes of what y'all do every day, falling off buildings, getting hit by cars, like you said. Yeah.
And it's all a blast. You know what I mean? It's like guys that go off to, I mean, it's like all the guys I know that are SEAL guys or Delta Force guys. Man, they're living their dream of a little boy going, man, we get to do this and play with these toys. And it's the same thing. You know, I get to play dress up as a professional, right? It's like my mom, this is one of my mom's paintings behind me, you know? And
oh, nice.
And and that's one of the things too. I groove on the artist the most. There's a dude I just bought this piece from. It was the most beautiful Princess Leia rendition I'd ever seen, and it's kind of this native rendition of it. This cat that lives up north named Michael Toya, and you know, just all the different like. So he's got native influence on Chewbacca and on like all these different aspects of Star Wars. It's phenomenal what people are doing, and it really brings folks together in this tremendous, tremendous way.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah,
and like I said,
it's always too. I think about it. It's like those are the kids in the back of class that everybody, the teacher, everybody gives shit to. I mean, you're not paying attention. You're not doing, and you're looking at these guys making a universe that's phenomenal. I didn't understand it. I was like, I don't know how you do that, or how. I mean, thinking of it's one thing to be able to translate that through your pen is wild, especially when you know at that time, especially there's no digital art. I mean, there's not that at all, and so the stakes are so high in like. One wrong move, and now you got to get creative with how to fix that and make it look like you didn't make them. And they do that. It was, I mean, yeah, highest admiration.
Yeah,
and that's why I like the first 3 Star Wars the most.
Yeah,
because those are all mobiles. That's all functional stuff that people have built and put together. It's not some digital articulated thing, which seems like cheating if you came from the skin world. Right? If you're not born in the digital world, I mean, in the digital world, we can talk about how there's asset to that and how it's way better. And I get it, but it's different than that, man. And that's special to me.
Yeah. Actuals are always the best. Like Jurassic Park, when they did the first one, when they created the big T-Rex, that to me was just as a kid growing up and seeing that. And then of course, when they had Universal Studios and they had the lifelike characters, it was so cool when you got to get to that, you know, Universal Studios and get to see that for the first time, other than watch it in the film. Like I said, even Terminator, when they did the Terminator and created the robots, I mean, the live action ones to me to this day are always the best ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's dope. It's really,
Yeah.
and that's why I love these live actions that we're doing, and to film inside the volume, which is the most technologically advanced arena that we film in this world. But you're still in a functional ship with all your friends, and it's like you're inside a video game playing.
Yeah.
You know, it's wild, man. The way it's advanced has been insane.
So
Yes.
can I ask, who'd you have the most fun with? You know, speaking of friends, you know, on the scenes, was there anybody special in the cast that you were like, you know what, when I'm working with this dude, it's gonna be, you know, just a fun day, a funny day, you know, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Emily Swallow is my heart, man. I just adore her.
Awesome.
And Katie Sackhoff as well. I'd known Katie since she was on Longmire out here in Santa Fe, and we
Nice.
Worked out together, and so we kind of came back together, and that was dope.
Perfect.
But I got to give it up for Brendan. Really, Brendan Wayne is the heart of that show to me.
Wow.
He is the guy that rallies everybody. He is the guy that brings the camaraderie, and he brings energy to it. I mean, and he's such a guy of a pure heart. You know, the first time I walked out and there's all these little kids out, there's all these Mandos, and you're like, I mean, it's like a dream, right? To see like, oh my God, here's the team. It's not just 3 of us. It's all of these Mandos together. And you're seeing all these littles all running around. And all those little kids, I mean, they could only be on, and they're burned out at sun time, all the things. Brendan brings in a pinata, and he brings in his Kali sticks. And so he gives all the kids at lunchtime a chance to whack the pinata. And I mean, and he brings that energy, and he brings that love to the whole thing, where there's a lightness, and there's, you know, I can't say enough about the guy. And so for me, it's like he's a real brother in that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Katie, this weekend is the Superhero Comic-Con and Car Show in San Antonio. And Ted from Countdown to the Geekcast is going to moderate her panel on Sunday.
Oh.
So we might actually have an opportunity to talk to her and do an interview for the Star Wars Stuff podcast. Cool. Is there anything, if we do get to talk to her, any message you want to relay to her?
Just send her all my love, big hugs. She's my sister, and just I'm real proud of what we accomplished together, and what she carried in the arc of that character, the energy that everybody brought to bring that together. You know, that, you know, there's a reality to this fiction that we create, right? It's these real circumstances in contrived settings, and for everybody to bring that together, it's like, you know, people like those 3, they make it easy to work with, right? They make it easy to make magic happen, because they're already kind of on the level of magic already, just walking around.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's great. That's great. So after these 3 seasons in the Book of Boba Fett for Star Wars that you've been in, do you catch yourself thinking about a particular moment or a day that you had on set that kind of comes back to you when you're doing mundane stuff during the day?
No, I'm pretty, when I'm in my stuff, I'm in my stuff. For where I'm right where my feet are at when I'm where I'm at. You know, it's like I'm here, I'm with you. When I reflect on that thing, if somebody asks me something like that, you know, I think about that scene when I'm orating to all the Mandos about, you know, why it is we ought to be together, right, and come together. I think about that scene. I think about the first scene where Din and I, you know, where I kind of brace him, and I'm like, these are, you know, you've been having dinner with the Imperial dogs. What are you doing here? And we kind of had that little tat-tat-tat the first time you see us. Yeah. And I think about that because that's when the real magnificence of what this show is kind of hit me. You know, I knew Lateef and Brendan, and so I'm there in that scene with them. But then Emily walks in, and the most, I mean, feminine, beautiful, powerful, with the gold and the fur and the way she carries herself, and it was just tremendous being a part of that. And then I think, you know, one of the scenes that really struck me is like, oh my God, is this cool? Like a lot of times you're in a show and you're like, I don't really know how cool this is going to be. You know what I mean? Right. But I'm wrong a lot too. I was in Sicario and I was like, I don't know if this will be good. I was like, you don't know anything, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, the scene when I fly in, when Mando's trying to escape with Grogu. Yep. And you know, this is the way each other and all that, and I'm gunning everybody up, and I walk into that for rehearsals and I'm seeing what it is. And I'm like, you know, like Tombstone's one of my favorite movies, right? And I go, this is the OK Corral. This is the old Western in outer space with John Wick, right? It's just like murder porn in outer space with a Western flavor. And coming down out of that, like flying down, like it was really cool to be connected and connect our characters in that kind of way, especially after we had, you know, this kind of this bracing of each other that happened earlier. And so like, there's all these little snippets, and then there's all the different things that are going on behind the scenes that, you know, there's like little personal revolutions that are happening all over with the cast and crew, and the kind of kindness and helpfulness that was on that set, which is like a long running show. And to carry that through when people are tired, when people are hungry, when people have home, I mean, it's tremendous how people came to support each other. And I'm just to be a part of that whole thing was a really beautiful kind of aspect for me that really strikes me and that I look back on, and I'm super stoked and feel real privileged to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for your character, because we know that he is related to Paz Vizsla, what was your approach to the character? Because you knew that he was related to someone that was already established. And then you also had the character Bo coming in, which had like direct like contact like with Paz Vizsla. What was that like of getting into character, knowing that your ancestor was already involved in some of the other shows?
Yeah, well, and him being, you know, part Jedi also, right, is like part of that for me. You know, I thought, here's this character that's a novel character, right? It's a different character to play than like to play Darth Vader. To play Darth Vader, you have a lot to carry because there's other people that have done that and carried that weight before you. And it needs to be similar in that. In this, I got to create my own movement and my own style to it, which, you know, maybe was easier, but like if you shoot and you miss, it's a big wrong, right? Yeah. Also, so it's all of that together. For me, the arc of it and my history of it, it didn't really come in present to me until the book of Boba Fett. And inside of that, like the arc of like how, you know, how Paz is looking at things is always under the filter of, this is what it's like for Mandalore. This is our integrity of my fundamentalist values, right? Of what it is that I'm carrying through. I'll say it like this. A lot of people said, you know, didn't really like him. Pretty salty dude all through it until that, you know, just when he's starting to grow on me, he goes, right? There's all that, right? That's out there everywhere. And true enough, I can see that. But that's because we're trained to look at the hero as the hero in that way. And really the way I myself and the armor are looking at Din is as a foundling, kind of like he's an untrained heathen to our way of life. He doesn't have our code. He doesn't have our lineage. He doesn't have any of that. And that's what's important to Heavy. And he's just really the hand of Emily, right? She's the one that holds our values and ideals and puts that down. I'm the one that goes, this is the way to behave, man. And you're not, you know, you're not following this life. You haven't followed any of this path. Why should I regard you as anything except some kind of interloper that's coming in to take our gold as a Beskar, right?
Exactly.
And so that's kind of what that was. And I think the thing with the Darksaber too, Heavy's not going in there out of an ego-based idea. He's going out there going, I don't know that I'm the right guy, but I know you're not.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I know that this is at least in my lineage. And for the sake of Mandalore, I need to say something because you know, he's the guy that stands up straight. And so that kind of came about then, and that kind of led into the next piece of like, I'm going to strip away some of my fundamental values and go, yeah, we're taking our helmets off. I guess now that's a thing. But what's most important to me is the unity and the longevity of Mandalore. And so I got to give here, and we're all going to have to give if we're to survive. And I think that whole steadiness of the character through it was interesting because folks looked at it and they thought, well, he's changed through this. He's unchanged. He is that all the way through.
Yeah.
And Din kind of changes and goes, I can see why this is correct. And thanks for letting me into this fold. You know what I mean? And there's a different kind of pride that he carries with that. Bo-Katan gets a different kind of, regard for it all. Because before then, there's kind of, they're heretics inside of this. And maybe I'm too devout and too traditionalist. But both of those needed to give a little bit for us to all survive. And I think that's the interesting story arc of it, is that the audience gets to change their feelings, but they don't even know why they've changed their feelings. They think the heavy has changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had the privilege of interviewing Tom O'Connell actually a couple months back. Yeah, awesome guy. I mean, I don't have to tell you, right? And it's funny because what you just mentioned, right? He, as you know, right, he did some stunt work as Darth Vader, right?
Yeah.
But so at the time he told me that he had done some stunt work for you, right?
Yeah.
He couldn't tell me what at that point because the scene had not come out yet.
Oh,
this was still during the season. It had just gone out to the third episode, I believe. It was somewhere around there, like mid-season. So he's like, I wish I could tell you. He's like, all I can tell you is that it's epic. We had, it was incredible work. And he said it right. He's like, I'm so proud that I was able to help out, with that and to just step into Tate's, shoes. So it's kind of funny you mentioned how you had the opportunity, right, to create this character, the way he moves and of course, some of his ideology and stuff. But I find it interesting that now people are having to emulate you, right? To keep with that aesthetic, to keep with that essence of the character. So you've very much, ingrained this character into the fabric of Star Wars, right? And like you said, it might not have been the goal from the get-go, right, from the very beginning. But I think through your work, through the stunt performers' work, through the storytellers, all of that, you've created this, like, I honestly think, like, this sort of almost quintessential character, to the show and to the mythology. So I just find it very interesting that you would mention that, right? How it's easier to step into like new shoes,
right.
Yet now people are trying to step into your shoes, right? In turn.
It's a trip for me because it's a difference, right? It's like when Tom came on, Jeremy Fitzgerald also did some of the climbing scene and some of the other scenes that we did. So he was another stunt performer. Right. There's a dude I always looked up to in the stunt world, right? He's a magnificent performer. Yeah. And then I'm going, oh my, that was the weirdest thing ever. I'm going, wow, some like my heroes are stunt doubles in this. And Tom was incredible. The reason I said that about Darth Vader is because, of course, Tom plays Darth Vader in Obi-Wan. Yeah. And I was on a panel with him a month ago or something. And really looking at that, there's, people, the question came up and I was just like, it's very different. I won't say easier, this or that. There's different pressures with it, but
of course,
what he did was incredible to be able to emulate what has been with Darth Vader, and then to come in and go, okay, like, how's Tate moving for this? Those are all other skill sets that are I really, really admire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know.
So if you had the choice, because we see this theme kind of play a lot through season 3, if you had the choice, would you end up staying with the actual way of where you keep your helmet on, or would you be one of those Mandos? Like, I'm not talking about Paz. I'm talking about you, Tate. Like you, and in particular, would you be one of those people that would end up taking off your helmet?
I think that you are what you're born into.
Okay.
And I think that the warrior class that you're born into at the time is the thing that you adhere to, unless there's a better way that's more useful to the whole. I think that it's typified on like what is the best health and nourishment for the whole, not for the self. And I think that when you're in groups, that's the thing to look towards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but
that's a great answer. Are you kidding me? Come on now. Yeah. I would have been like, hey, I'm a good looking dude. I'm taking off my helmet.
So Tate, I wanted to bring this up before we let you go here. Colin and I were in London at Celebration a couple months ago. Did you realize that your pin at Star Wars Celebration was one of the most sought after pins at Celebration? Goodness. I have it right here.
Oh, dope.
And it was kind of wild because when I went to the Celebration store, I got in line and I bought, I think, 6 mystery packs. And out of the 6, I pulled 5 of your pins
Oh my God.
out of those packs. So being a pin collector or a wannabe pin collector, I knew I could trade your pins and I knew they had a lot of value. So I was trading people, and I had already known Kenobi, General Kenobi here, and I knew he was a big Paz Vizsla fan.
Oh yeah.
And I knew he was going to want this pin, so I kept 2, one for me, one for him.
Cool.
And I was able to trade out and get more pins. But yeah, I mean, your pin was like very sought after.
Same with the Legos. The Legos are like that too, and in mystery sets, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I knew that the toy was I think the biggest selling toy for the Funko Pops and all the different figures, and and that's when I knew it was a big deal too. When I'm posing for all the different, like, yeah, you're gonna pose for all these toys. And I'm like, oh my God. It's a trip. It's a trip.
That's got to be wild. So when we got back to the States, I looked on eBay just to see how much it cost, what the bids were. I think that the highest bid we saw was like $200 for your pin.
Yeah.
So, it was pretty wild. But yeah, like I said, Tate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys.
I knew ahead of time, I'd seen a lot of your interviews and podcasts, and I knew you were an awesome guy, and your history and everything, and being one of the main characters in The Mandalorian, which is a very much beloved series for me. You can see all the Baby Yoda stuff and the helmets and stuff. And of course, when your Black Series helmet does drop, pretty sure it's going to drop eventually, I'm going to be sure to buy it. And hopefully you can make your way to Texas. It's very selfish of me, but I hope you can make your way to Texas to one of our conventions and do signings and do photo ops. I know plenty of people.
They ask, I'll come. I'm coming to a show in Texas shortly.
Yeah, so I actually messaged you about you're coming to San Antonio in October. Right. And I have messaged you about, stopping by your booth and maybe doing like a quick in-person interview.
No problem.
So very much looking forward to that. But yeah, so we'll be there is what I'm trying to say for sure.
I'll be right next to him.
Yeah, exactly. So David's pretty close by. So
we're gonna have to get a picture with you.
Oh yeah,
I love it, man. I love it. Can't wait to meet you guys in person.
Yeah.
So are you gonna bring your coffee with you to the show?
Probably not. But I'll be traveling with Funko Pops.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
So, any favorite of your coffee that you would recommend?
Our nitro I love, and I love our beans. I love the saber-tooth roast we got is a nice dark roast that I really dig. Yeah.
Perfect. My wife loves coffee, so I'm gonna order some of that right now.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, thanks, you guys.
So where can the people find you, Tate?
I'm just at Tate Fletcher. I'm super easy to find. I'm on Instagram. I'm not super active on Facebook, but everything transfers over to Facebook. And you can find me at a local con in your area, I guess. I'll be in Manchester in December, in the UK. I'll be in Australia in September, in Brisbane and Sydney. I'll be in Texas in October. I go to Terrificon in Connecticut up at Mohegan Sun. July 28th, I believe it is.
Nice.
So I'm just moving around doing that a little bit. We got a couple independent shows that are coming up that my buddy Keith, who was in my coffee, club with me,
right.
He's written, and he put a short film out that he's just gotten a bunch of awards for on the circuit. So we're just trying to move like that and keep things going and keep things creative and make really cool shit with my friends.
Nice.
There you go.
Awesome.
There you
So
go.
Just like this. I mean, it's like, this is what I love doing. I love being in conversation of whatever it is. I've never been much of a spectator, but I love to be in the meat of it all. And this kind of stuff is my favorite thing to do.
Well, I'll be sure to bring you, Tate, a piece of that art, and I can give you one for you. Because like I said, and my friend is going to send me some down here. So I'll be sure to get one for you so that I can present to you in October.
That'd be great, man. I love it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And with that, for General Kenobi, Colin, Retro Ray, my name's David. Special thanks to our awesome guest, who's always welcome back, Tate Fletcher, Paz Vizsla. And all I got to say is, this is the way.
This is
the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.